About the history of a great Avadhuta called Poonthura Thakkala Swamy. He was actually staying near the seashore of Poonthura. Poonthura is a place at Trivandrum and it is a seashore. He was staying there for a long time without eating food and drink. No solid food. But he used to take liquid food, that is only tea, 2 or 3 cups of tea within 2 or 3 days. That's all. He never used to take bath also. For nearly 50 years, he had not taken bath. But always he appeared to be fresh. No foul smell, nothing. So that was the speciality of that great Avadhuta, Poonthura Thakkala Swamy. Now, actually he belonged to a place called Thakkala. Thakkala, it is a place at Kanyakumari district in Tamil Nadu. The original name of the Swami was Madhusudhana. So he was born at Thakkala. The young Madhusudhana, from the very childhood days itself, he had an inclination towards bhakti. He was God-fearing man. And the parents of Madhusudhana appointed Madhusudhana for giving food to an Avadhuta. There lived an Avadhuta at Thakkala. And he used to give, this Madhusudhana used to give food to this Avadhuta. Probably from the younger days itself, he might have had the blessings of this great Avadhuta. He led an ordinary life. He went to school, to the colleges, and he had taken his diploma in engineering. After that, he got an appointment as a village officer. He was posted at Nedumangad. Nedumangad is a village area in Trivandrum district. So, as a village officer, he had to discharge his duties very well. As an officer, he was given certain duties. He was sent for collection of taxes. That is, money should be collected from everywhere in the name of taxes. So he went before everybody and started collecting money. And he asked money from the working class and laborers also. But they refused to give money. They protested. They said they would not give money because they have very little money to live. They are living in great misery. And how can they give money to the government? No. So they protested. So he thought, what action I will take? As a government officer, I have to collect money. But as a God-fearing man, as a devotee of God, it is not better to force them and collect money. He returned to his house. And it was a sleepless night for him. That night was a sleepless night for him. He was really in a dilemma. In the early morning, he got an idea. He thought of resigning the post. So the next morning, he went to the office and resigned the government job. Before that, we have to know one thing about him. He was a very rich man. He had acres and acres of land. Nearly 100 acres of land in his name alone. He had brothers and sisters, but he himself was wealthy. And in his land, there were precious trees, that is, costly trees like teak wood and other woods. But after resigning the post of the government officer, he straight away went to Poonthura. Poonthura, at that time, in Poonthura, there was a great Swamiji. He was also an Avadhuta. That was the original Poonthura Swamy. He used to chew tobacco and he had done great miracles. Great miracles were performed by him. When this Madhusudhana, when he went to Poonthura, he was cordially welcomed by the Swamiji. And this Madhusudhana was accepted as the disciple. He blessed him and also said oh, it is time for me to go from here. So you have to be here and bless people. From tomorrow onwards, in future, you have to be here on the seashore. You have to look after the welfare of the people and be here. So one night, this original Poonthura Swamiji, he walked over the seas. The fisherman engaged in fishing in the deep seas. It was a midnight hour, 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night. The fishermen at that time, they have witnessed it. And this news was said to everyone. This Swamiji was seen walking over the seas. Some say that he had attained the Jala Samadhi. Some say that he had gone to some other place, some other continent or some other place. Anyhow, after that, he was not seen anywhere in Trivandrum. So, this Poonthura Swamy, this disciple, Thakkala Swamy, later on, he too was commonly known as Poonthura Swamy. He had great cities. He can very well read the mind of others. The mind reading was possible for him. One or two incidences I know, I read in the magazines about him. Once, a distant relative of the Swamiji, without the knowledge of his relatives, he secretly entered the land of Swamiji and he cut the woods from the trees and he sold it for a good amount. At that night, particular night, it was a sleepless night for him. He was not able to sleep properly. His mind, it was completely restless and trouble started creating in his mind, one after the other. So, he had taken a firm decision. The next day, I must go and inform this to Swamiji. I have to apologize this thing. So he was waiting for the morning. So next day in the morning, he started from Thakkala to Trivandrum and he went to the seashore of Poonthura to meet Swamy because he had done a crime. He wanted to confess his guilt. So he was waiting for it. But he never opened his mouth. Before that, Swamiji, with his inner intuitive power, and without anybody's assistance, Swamiji knew everything. Swamiji called this man and said, oh, you have done a crime. You have entered somebody's property and you had stolen woods and other things. And you have sold it also for a good price. Stealing, this is not a good thing. You go now. Stealing is not a good thing for anybody. No, stop it. This is one of the incidences about his mind reading capability. There is yet another one. That is, there was a professor in the Mahatma Gandhi College, Trivandrum. He retired as the professor and he was also a very good astrologer. He was staying near Nayatingara area and whatever said by him, mostly it came true and people acknowledged him and accepted him as a good astrologer. He had taken a decision. He liked to be a sannyasi. He wanted to lead a life of sannyasi. That is, he decided to leave Kerala and go to some other parts of India, probably in North India or somewhere. Before that, he wanted to get the consent of Poonthura Swamy. And for that, he didn't say this to anybody. This was known to this professor alone. He never said this to a second person. So, he started from Nayatingara and went to Poonthura and waited for Swamiji. From the early morning itself, he started waiting. And till evening, he waited. At about the evening, slowly the Swamiji came out from the hut-like thing. He was actually lying on the floor. That arrangements were made by his disciples. Slowly he crept out. Slowly he crawled and came out from the his cave-like apartment. And this professor didn't say anything. The Swamiji called the professor and said, "Oh, you are going to be a sannyasi. You are going to lead a life of sannyasi. You have decided to leave here. This is not possible. In this life, a life of sannyasi is not said anywhere. So even if you go as sannyasi, you are not going to succeed. So you do one thing. In this life, there is no sannyasi life for you. So you do one thing. You return back to your house and stay there and be a great devotee. Do good things in the rest of the life and be a great devotee." So the professor obeyed Swamiji's words. He dropped the plan of becoming the sannyasa. Yes. He returned back to his house. I don't know what happened later. This is another incident of his mind reading capability. Once somebody said he started crying that fire in Madurai or something. Next day, there was a report in the newspaper about the fire in Madurai. And here so many things are said about Swamiji like this. I have read in the magazines and several other forms. Anyhow, during his old age, he attained samadhi. And the samadhi was laid, and over that, a Shivalinga was placed. Till now, you can find out a beautiful Shiva temple on the top of his samadhi. The puja ceremonies are going on, and the birthday of Swamiji was conducted in a very grand manner. I directly went and I had the opportunity to see him from a distance twice or thrice. Once, I participated in his birthday celebrations. It was a very grand feast. Hundreds and hundreds of people from all parts of Trivandrum assembled there. And he was a great yogi, an Avadhuta, which I got opportunity to see him. This is all about Poonthura Thakkala Swamy.